The little ones introduced the kids to the awful world of This War of Mine, and today we will be looking at the second kid. Welcome back to A Survivor's Guide to This War of Mine. Today is the story of Misha. Misha is a child character, and as such can only do a few things. The main thing he can do is play, which keeps his spirits up, which in turn improves the mood of the group. The other thing that he can do is learn, and what he learns depends on what you teach him, and how much trust you build up with him. You are able to teach him most of the recipes in the game, especially repeatable ones like food and water, and if you build up trust with him, you can have him share a bed with an adult, which saves bed space each night. The other way that kids can benefit the team is by saving resources, as they only require one portion of food or medicine to move up 2 levels. For example, one portion of cooked food will take him from hungry to well fed. This is very useful, as keeping him happy and well looked after improves everybody's mood. So now that we have covered the main things of children in general, we will look at Misha's story in particular. We'll start with his recruitment speech, then move on to his good and bad stories before looking at his endings. Note that kids can only leave the shelter and won't be killed by raids. So Misha's recruitment speech is actually from his neighbour Daniel. "Thank heavens. I'm Daniel and this is Misha, my neighbour's kid. Could you take care of him for a few days? I promised him I'd find his parents, and I won't risk sneaking out of the city with a child in tow." Now we can move on to Misha's good story. "When will Daniel come back? He's my friend. I didn't know him so well before, but he's been really nice to me since he found me. I hope he comes back with my parents. I miss them. I was sitting at the big table with them eating breakfast when the soldiers came and said that there was an evacuation and that we had to get in the trucks. My mum and dad started grabbing and packing things, and I told them I had to go and get Roxy. I found her on the next street, but when we returned, everybody had gone. Daniel later said they thought I must have been already gone on another truck. I fed Roxy, and I had some milk and cookies, and we went to bed. One night, Roxy woke me up barking loudly, and I heard terrible noises. I hid in my hideout because I knew that the thieves had come. Roxy found them, but they shot her. She saved my life. The thieves had left by morning, but they made a terrible mess and stole all our food. I buried Roxy with her bowl and her toys and her blanket, and I marked the place on the wall. I didn't know what to do, so I waited. Then Daniel found me and took me with him. He said that Roxy is in heaven for saving me, and that one day I'll see her again. I just wish she was here, and my parents too. I have so much to tell them." We'll now move on to Misha's bad story. "Do you think something happened to Daniel? He said he'd be back soon. Did he lie? He lived next to us, but I didn't know him so well. I miss him now. I miss my parents. The last time I saw them was when we were eating breakfast, and the soldiers started banging on the door and shouting that we had to get to the trucks because there was an evacuation. My parents started to run to and fro, grabbing things, and I said I'd go and get Roxy. I found her on the next street and took her to my parents, but they'd left without me. They always said they'd never ever leave me, but they lied. I ate cookies, and I gave Roxy her food, and then we waited, but they didn't come. One night, Roxy started to growl and bark, and I heard a bang, and then she started to whine, and then there was another bang. I was in my hideout, and I wanted to help her, but I was scared. I heard steps and noises all through the night, and in the morning, I found Roxy, and she was dead. And there was no food left. I dug a hole and put her in it, and I had to cover her with earth because that's what you do. Her paws were sticking out, and I couldn't bend them, so I brought sand from the sandbox. Then Daniel came and took me with him. He said Roxy is in heaven and promised to find my parents, but I think he lied. I think they're with Roxy." Similar to Kalina last week, Misha's story is very, very sad and just highlights how bad things can be for children who are in war zones. Now we'll look at the endings that Misha can have. If Misha abandons the settlement. Misha ran away in the middle of the night and was taken in by a childless couple. He was eventually reunited with his parents. If you reject Daniel when he comes to the door. Daniel managed to find another temporary home for Misha. He managed to slip through the front line and locate Misha's parents, but they had to wait for the end of the fighting before returning. If Misha gets to the end of the war, but the team has got bad karma collectively, Misha had to wait a long time for his parents. They were eventually reunited, but what they had lived through changed them all forever. Now if Misha makes it to the end of the war, but is made depressed or sad by the situation. Daniel eventually managed to locate Misha's parents, but the family never returned to their home in Pogoran, marred by the dreadful memories. And finally, the best ending for Misha. Daniel quickly found Misha's parents, and there was a tearful, joyous reunion. The nightmares soon ended, and Misha recovered fully. So there we have Misha. I hope you found that interesting, and if you did, please do join me where we'll be going through Sergei next week. Ta